In this video, we'll create the most scientifically perfect oral routine to optimize perfect health. We'll first go over what the science says the most perfect oral routine itself is, techniques to achieve perfect oral health, rules and tips that make our teeth stronger and healthier, and the best brands to use for our oral health. And at the end, we'll go over what metrics we should be looking for when we visit the dentist so that we have good knowledge on what to expect. And by the way, I'm Juan, and I went from having embarrassing amounts of calculus and plaques in my teeth to literally having zero inflammation, zero plaque index, and minimal bone loss in my mouth. So let's start with what the science says the most perfect oral routine is. In this 2018 study, they tested whether flossing before brushing was better or flossing after brushing was better. It was found that flossing before brushing group reduced significantly more amounts of plaque than the brush first group. Now, when it comes to the type of floss, there are three main categories: waxed floss, dental tape, and superfloss. In a study comparing interdental plaque scores among 20 subjects, dental tape showed the greatest improvement while superfloss performed the lowest. But here's the truth. The technique matters far more than the type of floss you use. So first, we want to start by wrapping the floss around the middle finger. Use the thumb and pointer finger to grab the floss and use the saw motion to get it up your teeth. And once you're up there, we want to go up and down to the left and up and down to the right. The key thing here is that we want to hug the tooth and go underneath the gum line. But remember, flossing is just one of 5 steps to achieving your perfect oral health routine. The second protocol is going to be using a tongue scraper. The tongue harbors one of the densest bacterial communities in the entire body. These bacteria metabolize amino acids and produce a substance called volatile sulfur compounds. And volatile sulfur compound is responsible for your bad breath and even promoting inflammation along the gum line. Now, the good news is one clinical trial found that using a tongue scraper resulted in a 75% reduction in volatile sulfur compounds, while toothbrush tongue brushing only reduced about 45%. Now that said, what tongue scrapers should we use? A small crossover study with 10 healthy subjects found both metal and plastic showed equivalent amounts of anaerobic bacterial count reduction, while the toothbrush wasn't as effective. That said, I personally found the steel tongue scraper to not work as well compared to the plastic version, where they have small spikes on the brush. After using the spikes, you see the dirty gunk on your tongue scraper and it gives you the satisfaction that it's actually cleaning your tongue. That said, technique and using it at the right time matters a lot once it comes to tongue scraping. A morning tongue scraping before breakfast is ideal because bacterial metabolism peaks overnight and volatile sulfur compound level rise dramatically while we sleep. By tongue scraping before breakfast, we prevent ourselves from swallowing bacterial metabolites that trigger inflammation. Now, the proper technique on using a tongue scraper is you want to start by dragging it from the back to the front. So first, stick your tongue out as much as possible. Then place your tongue scraper as far back as possible. Then gently press down to your tongue and slowly drag it forward till the tip of the tongue. The key word here is gently press down. Now, rinse your tongue scraper and then repeat the process 2 to 3 more times. Now, the reason why you want to do it before brushing is so you're not spreading tongue bacteria across your clean teeth. And only after you tongue scrape, then comes the brushing part. So, does different type of toothbrush matter? Well, piles of studies confirm that electrical toothbrush, especially the oscillating rotating type, has shown to reduce 20% greater reduction in reducing plaque, gingivitis, and bleeding compared to manual toothbrush. That said, technique is also really important when we brush. According to the study, a brushing duration of 7.5 seconds within a surface was considered the most optimal. A mistake I used to make when using an electrical toothbrush was going aggressive along the teeth and gum. This was detrimental because studies show excessive pressure from the brush causes mechanical abrasion of the gingiva, which is your gum tissue, and over time this leads to the gum pulling away from the tooth, which in dental term we call it gum recession. Once the gum recedes, it doesn't grow back naturally. So it's very important we let the electrical toothbrush do its job while we apply gentle pressure on the teeth for 7.5 seconds per tooth. Statistically, it was also found we end up brushing less amount of time in our inner teeth versus the outer. Therefore, applying the 7.5 seconds in the inner segment will give you perfect teeth. Oral-B has an app to check if you brushed properly, so this is one way you can find out. That said, it was found that brushing your teeth alone misses nearly 40% of your plaque's biofilm, especially especially underneath your gum line. And this is where Waterpik comes into play. A study from Clinical Dentistry found that after 4 weeks of comparing brush, floss, Waterpik group versus brush and floss group, the Waterpik group showed a 51% greater reduction in gum bleeding and a 29% greater reduction in plaque index compared to the brush and floss group. That's because the Waterpik disrupts the bacterial matrix of biofilm below the gum line, whereas regular flossing can't physically reach without damaging the tissue. Now, what's even more fascinating is how Waterpiks improve inflammatory biomarkers even beyond the mouth. In a 2021 study of patients with type 2 diabetes, daily use of Waterpik reduced systemic CRP levels after 12 weeks, which CRP is your inflammation marker. Now, most dental researchers recommend using Waterpiks before brushing for 2 main reasons. First, it removes large debris and disrupts plaque, allowing fluoride and toothpaste ingredients to reach deeper during your brushing process. And second, using it after brushing may rinse away fluoride before it has the chance to bind to enamel. Despite these great reasonings, for perfect health, I decided to place it after brushing for one big reason. And that is, you do not want to swallow any of the toothpaste residue after you brush. It was actually found that people who used a 1450 ppm fluoride toothpaste swallowed on average of 0.42 milligrams of fluoride per brushing, which means 75% of the chemical went to your tooth while 25% got swallowed. In this study, it states that the toxic dose of fluoride is around 5 milligrams of fluoride per kilogram body weight. This means 0.42 milligrams of ingestion won't impact our health too much. But if we brush twice a day, that becomes 0.84 milligrams. If we brush for a whole month, that becomes 25.2 milligrams. Brush for a whole year, that's 306 milligrams of fluoride ingested. And if you multiply that to 10 years, that is 3,060 milligrams of fluoride ingested into our body, which I believe that's a big enough number for fluoride to become a potential neurotoxin and hormonal disruptor. That's why washing some of the residues out with a water flosser might sacrifice a little bit on tooth maxing, but it can give us the health maxing benefits of potentially reducing the amount of toothpaste residue getting swallowed. Now, the last step for a perfect oral routine is oil pulling, and there's a reason why we want to do oil pulling over using a regular mouthwash. A 2016 study found that chlorhexidine, often found in mouthwash, reduced oral bacterial load by over 97% in just 24 hours, which is amazing, but it also killed beneficial nitrate-reducing bacteria, which are very important for blood pressure regulation. When these bacteria die, nitrate can't convert to nitric oxide efficiently, leading to measurable increases in blood pressure. And this is true because a 2019 study in Free Radical Biology and Medicine found that using chlorhexidine mouthwash for 1 week raised systolic blood pressure by 2 to 3 milligrams. By contrast, oil pulling works through mechanical emulsification and fat binding, gently trapping bacteria and toxins in the oil as you swish. It doesn't really sterilize your mouth, it actually balances it. And you might think oil pulling might not be as effective as regular mouthwash, but a 2017 trial comparing coconut oil pulling to chlorhexidine found that both reduced equivalent amounts of Streptococcus mutans, which is the main cavity-causing bacteria, but oil pulling didn't kill the beneficial nitrate-reducing bacteria, causing no side effects. Additionally, even with the reputable mouthwash brands, there are some ingredients we probably want to avoid swallowing into our gut. So far, we covered the perfect oral routine for perfect health. Yet, there's also 5 rules that will make your teeth stronger while keeping your whole body healthy. And the first rule actually might surprise you. It might sound counterintuitive, but brushing too much can actually make your teeth weaker, and overbrushing wears down your enamel and can cause gum recession. Basically, your enamel is like a glass shield, and once it starts to erode, it will never grow back. Studies have shown that brushing more than 3 times a day significantly increased people's enamel loss, so brush maximum 2 times per day. This also leads to rule number 2, which is wait 30 to 60 minutes after meals before brushing. This rule is one of the most overlooked rules. Basically, when you eat foods, your enamel temporarily softens. Brushing immediately afterwards can act like a sandpaper scraping off that softened layer. A 2018 study found that brushing within 10 minutes of an acidic drink caused up to 60% more enamel erosion compared to waiting 30 minutes. So the perfect protocol for this rule is to rinse with water after acidic meals, wait at least 30 to 60 minutes before brushing, and let saliva naturally neutralize the acid first. The third rule is protecting your saliva flow. And what does that even mean? Well, when you're dehydrated from caffeine, mouth breathing, or poor sleep, your saliva flow drops. And that's when bacteria start building up, enamel weakens, and you start having bad breath. A 2021 review in Frontier Oral Health confirmed that reduced saliva flow dramatically increases the risk of cavities and gum inflammation as well. So one of the most simplest ways to protect your teeth is to stay hydrated, breathe through your nose, and avoid constant caffeine and alcohol intake, which eventually dries out your mouth. And this also leads us to the next obvious rule. You want to limit your sugar intake. The real issue with sugar is acid production. When bacteria digest sugar, they produce lactic acid, which lowers your mouth's pH. Once the pH drops below 5.5, enamel starts to demineralize, meaning it literally dissolves your teeth, gum, and everything. Once you master low sugar intake, you can actually follow the last rule and strengthen your teeth, which is remineralize your teeth. Now, what does that even mean and how do we actually do it? Well, our enamel can't heal, but it can remineralize. And that entirely depends on your nutrient status. Calcium, vitamin D, and magnesium are the trifecta of strong teeth. Calcium provides the building blocks for enamel and dentin, which dentin is the inner layer of your tooth. Vitamin D helps your body absorb and transport that calcium. Magnesium keeps calcium in balance so it deposits where it should be in your teeth and not your arteries. Now that said, what brand should we buy and use for our toothbrush, toothpaste, floss, tongue scraper, and oil pulling? We'll look at both budget options and the best of the best for perfect health. Starting with a toothbrush, there are two main electrical types: the oscillating rotating electrical brush and the futuristic looking sonic brush. So is the sonic brush actually better? While both outperformed manual brushing, a 12-week clinical trial found that oscillating rotating brush produced statistically greater reduction in plaque and gingivitis compared to the sonic toothbrush. So always go for the oscillating rotating brush. The best budget option for oscillating rotating brush would be the Oral-B Vitality electrical toothbrush, which is only $19. And the best option will be the Oral-B IO Series 9. Not because the brushing mechanism is vastly superior, but because it adds tracking, pressure sensors, and data feedback for optimal technique. After using this brush, I learned I was applying way too much pressure on my tooth, and I learned I was not waiting 7.5 seconds per area. So this is a really good toothbrush to check your oral hygiene, and because this helps me track my brushing behaviors, I'm slowly fixing my bad techniques. Also, when using an electrical toothbrush, research says to change the brush head every 3 months because worn down brushes reduces cleaning effectiveness. I should probably stop using this brush. Okay, but what about toothpaste? Should we be using a fluoride-free toothpaste or should we be using a fluoride-based toothpaste? Well, over 70 years of research and hundreds of controlled trials have shown fluoride toothpaste significantly reduces your cavity. It's just a fact. Fluoride works in 3 ways. First, it remineralizes enamel and helps redeposit calcium and phosphate back into weakened areas. Second, it prevents demineralization and it performs a protective fluoroapatite layer that resists acid attacks. And third, it inhibits bacterial metabolism, which in short, fluoride suppresses acid-producing enzymes. And despite all of these beautiful, well-done studies, the reason why you don't want to use fluoride toothpaste is because studies have shown high fluoride exposure has been associated with reduced intelligence in children. And piles of study confirmed elevated fluoride level may negatively affect brain development in children. And on top of that, a frontline review on immune effects found that long-term fluoride ingestion may damage the immune system when exposure is excessive. Now, it's noteworthy that many of the adverse findings are seen in high exposure settings and low amounts don't have too much of an impact. So a couple uses of fluoride toothpaste won't actually impact your health in any harmful way. That said, like we said before, if we assume we brush 2 times per day over a 10-year time period, we can potentially be ingesting 3,060 milligrams of fluoride, which is more than enough to harm the body long term. So for that reason, I personally don't use fluoride toothpaste. And I'm not saying it's bad. Fluoride is good for the teeth, and it's just a preference. But for those who prefer to avoid fluoride, there are now alternatives that has similar effect as fluoride. And one toothpaste is going to be the hydroxyapatite based toothpaste. Hydroxyapatite is the same mineral your enamel is made out of. This 2022 randomized control trial found that 10% hydroxyapatite toothpaste performs similar to a 1450 ppm fluoride toothpaste in preventing early cavities. The mechanism for hydroxyapatite is different. Instead of forming protective fluoroapatite layer, hydroxyapatite acts as a building block, binding directly to microcracks in enamel and reinforcing them. This is actually funny because one of the research papers I published back when I was doing my PhD was on hydroxyapatite. But anyways, the brand I would recommend is Bokeh Ella Mint toothpaste. It's a nano hydroxyapatite based toothpaste. But if you're looking for an even more natural option where you don't want hydroxyapatite or fluoride, Himalaya Botanic uses neem and pomegranates to remove your plaque. But to be honest, to get the best of both worlds for tooth strengthening and health, I would definitely recommend the Bokeh Ella hydroxyapatite based toothpaste. Okay, so next, what floss should we use? Earlier we talked about how dental tape is the most effective tool for removing plaque between teeth. But even within dental tape, there's another layer of nuance: waxed versus unwaxed. Waxed dental tape is coated, while unwaxed tape, on the other hand, has no coating, making it slightly thinner and more textured. This study found that both waxed and unwaxed dental tape were nearly identical when used correctly. So from a health standpoint, less is more, so I would definitely go with the unwaxed dental tape. That said, I know a lot of you guys are not keen to use plastic-based flosses, so for those who want to use a natural-based floss, there's bamboo charcoal dental floss, where they make the floss from bamboo fiber and coat it with natural candela wax. Or there's also a brand called Flan Peppermint Silk Floss, made from silk with a light essential oil coating. My personal belief is whether you choose waxed, unwaxed, or bamboo, I think the choice is more of an micro-optimization, and the consistency of you using the floss is going to be the major factor that will keep your gum healthy long term. Okay, so for oil pulling, you want a clean, potent oil that supports oral health without synthetic additives or alcohol. My top pick for value is going to be Guru Nanda Pulling Oil. It blends coconut and sesame oils. Now, if you're willing to invest in a premium version, Terra & Co.'s Brilliant Black Oil Pulling adds activated charcoal and vitamin E for whitening and deep cleansing. And when it comes to tongue scrapers, I personally lean towards the one that have tiny spikes, ridges, or textured surfaces instead of the totally smooth steel scrapers that just glides out. If you want maximum cleaning and you're comfortable with a little more sensation, go with the textured scraper. Again, it's plastic, but I personally find it more effective. I'll link one down below. From the steel version, I found that flat single blade design worked better than the traditional U-shaped scraper, since it allows more controlled pressure and even coverage across the tongue surface. Now, for the water pick, I'd recommend choosing any model that lets you adjust the pressure intensity. That's the key feature that actually matters. I would highly recommend getting different types of tips, one for the gum, one for the tongue, so you can use the water pick for your whole mouth. Now, if you're new to water pick, I'd highly recommend starting at a low pressure, since strong pressure will cause your gum to bleed, but over time, as you reduce gum inflammation, the bleeding will eventually stop and you can start using higher pressure. But now that we have everything dialed down, how often should we visit the dentist? And better yet, what metrics should we be looking for? According to multiple dentists, this is the ideal protocol. First, you want 2 professional cleanings every single ear. Second, 1 full exam per ear where you get x-rays, clinical measurements, oral cancer screening, and a deep look at gum pockets. And third, getting 1 bite evaluation airway checkway every 1 to 2 years. This is something almost no one talks about, but your bite affects breathing, jaw stability, your posture, and even sleep quality. So this is going to be very important. That said, even if we get all these tests done, we still need to know what numbers we should be looking for when we get our checkup, and there are 5 important metrics. The first one is the plaque index. This simply measures how much plaque is stuck on your tooth. Lower number means cleaner teeth, lower bacterial load, and lower inflammation. My own plaque index right now is basically 0, and that is after having embarrassing amounts of plaque years ago. And you can simply fix this by just staying consistent with brushing your teeth. Now, second metric is a little more complicated, which is your gingival index. This is a score that measures gum inflammation on a scale of 0 to 4, and you identify by comparing the color of your gum. A healthy gingival tissue looks light pink, while an unhealthy gingival tissue is going to be more on the saturated side. Healthy gums should not bleed. If your gum starts bleeding when flossing or brushing, that is because of inflammation, so to improve this score, we constantly have to floss every single day and use a water pick. The third metric is measuring inflammation markers by measuring pocket depth. This is by far the most important number in our oral health because it is irreversible. Healthy gum should have a pocket depth less than 3 millimeters. 4 millimeters means early gum disease, 5 millimeters or more means the bacteria are literally living underneath your gum line 24 hours a day. So that's definitely not good. Luckily, when I got it checked up last month ago, my pocket depth were in between 2 to 3 millimeters, which is quite a relief. To prevent the reduction in pocket depth, you first start by lowering inflammation by not eating sugary food or alcohol, but also wait at least an hour after eating before you brush because during that time, your gum softens and is more prone to gum recession, which will reduce your pocket depth. Okay, so the fourth metric is going to be checking your bone levels through x-rays. Much like pocket depth is really important because once the bone is lost, you can't grow it back. For this measurement, you'll just have to understand the images of your x-ray and constantly compare them. Generally speaking, if our bone goes below this line of our tooth, that is not a good sign, so we definitely don't want that. And bone loss can be prevented by consuming calcium, vitamin D, and magnesium, but also avoiding foods like sugar and acidic foods. Now, another question we have to ask ourselves is, do you actually need braces or Invisaligns for perfect health? I am currently going through Invisaligns for 3 big reasons. First, crowded teeth has shown to trap plaques, and plaque creates inflammation, and when teeth are aligned, brushing becomes easier, the biofilm is thinner, and inflammation goes down. Second, straight teeth has shown to improve your chewing efficiency. Your chewing efficiency affects jaw strength, saliva flow, head posture, and even digestion. And third, better bite equals better airway. A stable bite supports proper tongue posture. Proper tongue posture supports nasal breathing, and nasal breathing lowers inflammation and improves nitric oxide production. That said, Invisaligns and braces come at a cost, and it's better to do this earlier in your age versus later because you are moving your teeth, and if the teeth moves too fast, there's always a chance of bone loss. Also, if you want to have more energy, lower brain fog, and feel good in general, I am taking 2 more people to work with. My promise is simple, I will double your HRV in 90 days, and if I don't, I will work for free until you do. My clients have seen amazing results, and I personally went from not being able to focus too long to becoming really productive, so it will not only boost your heart health, but performance overall. Anyways, YouTube thinks you might like this video, so go check it out. I will see you in the next one. Peace.